hear His voice. We go through times where we can see Him, we can taste Him, we can almost reach out and touch Him. He feels so close to us. And then there are seasons in our life where we kind of get distracted. And maybe things are going good or bad, but we kind of get distracted. We suffer a loss, or we get too comfortable, or we get hurt, or things in our life begin to fall apart. And we feel that we're so distant from God that our heart sometimes begins to ache. Now those are the extremes. But most of the time we're somewhere in between the closeness to God of being a saint and the distance from God of being a sinner. And so in the next 4 weeks, we're going to acknowledge that all of us, each and every one of us, are somewhere between a sinner and a saint. And as my father would always say, son, sometimes you just got to put it in simple terms. Simple terms, simplicity is, you know what? We all ain't half bad, but we all ain't angels either. That'll be funnier when you drive home, believe me. And as we move forward, we must acknowledge that every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. And it's never too late to change or to make adjustments in our life. And today we're going to begin this journey by looking at a time when we felt unworthy. Those times in our lives when we look in the mirror and we kind of wonder if anyone would desire a relationship with us, especially God. And when we begin to revisiting someone we met as a child, we begin by visiting Zacchaeus. Remember, Zacchaeus was a wee little man. Did y'all not sing that song here in Illinois? We sang it in Tennessee. Wee little man was he, climbed up in a sycamore tree to see what he could see. I got to get y'all up to speed, man. That extra hour of sleep. But anyway, and we need to understand that Zacchaeus was a whole lot like us. He was stuck sometimes more on the sinner side. You see, he was very small physically, but he was rich. You see, he made his money by collecting taxes. Now, tax collectors in that day and time, you see, could levy a tax on anyone they wanted to for any amount they wished, just as long as the Roman government got their amount. As long as the government got their portion, this tax collector could collect any amount of tax. Not only could he not collect it, he had the army of the Roman army to enforce the tax if he need be. So he had the muscle at his hand. So Zacchaeus, though was small, he carried a large amount of power with him wherever he went. You see, Zacchaeus made his wealth off the hard work and labor of other people. Zacchaeus had a tenacity about him, about his character, because he was always in a position that he had to deliver. If he couldn't deliver, if he could not collect anything, he was out of a job and was out of his fortune. Zacchaeus might have been a great guy at one time, but he kind of fell into some bad habits. You see, he might have started out as a tax collector being one of genuine, but then it was a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit more off the top and a little bit more to this family, and this family has more, so I'll tax them more. And Zacchaeus, all his relationships were phony. All the people he had in his life were phony. Why? Because people only befriended him because they figured he wouldn't tax them as much if they were his friends. And then people wanted to hang around him because he was rich. He picked up the tab everywhere he went. And deep down, Zacchaeus knew this. He knew this. So a person who felt unworthy of anyone's acceptance, anyone's love, anyone's grace, if there was anyone in that day and time, it would have been Zacchaeus. So if you return to me to the 19th chapter of Luke, we begin where we meet Zacchaeus, beginning with the first verse. Luke 19:1. So Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay in your house today." When we feel unworthy, when we feel unlovable, when we feel there is no value to who we are or in a relationship, just like Zacchaeus, it causes us to react in two different ways. Just like Zacchaeus, the first way when we feel unworthy, we want to watch, but we don't want to get involved. I mean, we want to watch, but we really don't want to get involved. You see, Zacchaeus wanted to see Jesus. He wanted to see what this crowd was getting all excited about, but he really, at the first moment of climbing the tree, he really didn't want to get involved. Sycamore trees have big branches, I guess, and leaves, so it would be very easy to hide up in there. He didn't want to get involved. He just wanted to be a witness. And sometimes we're like that. I mean, we want to see, but we don't want to get involved. We want to see what the faith community is doing, but we don't want to get involved. I had a kid on our football team. He was at every practice, did everything we asked. Game time came, and I would turn to him and say, "Hey, man, get in." And he'd look at me and say, "Oh, no, Coach, I'm fine." "What?" "No, I'm fine. I don't want to play. I want to witness, but I don't want to get involved." And why? It's not because we're lazy. It's because we feel deep down we are not worthy. I mean, who am I? I mean, who am I to serve as a deacon? I know my past. I mean, who am I to serve as an elder? How many of us have said out loud to ourselves, "I can't do that. I can't speak about God. I can't speak about Jesus. I can't invite people to a faith community or come to worship"? I mean, surely there are many people better equipped than I am to do that. I mean, who would listen to me? I'm so unworthy to share how God touched my life. I mean, there's so other people who can do that out there that I see that can do a whole lot better job than me. And when we feel unworthy, when we feel unlovable, we stand and we watch and we don't want to participate. And if you have ever worked with children, you'll see this all the time. The ones that don't want to participate, most of the time, not all, most of the time, the ones that sit in the corner and don't want to participate no matter what you're doing, it's not because they're incapable. It's because they don't feel worthy. They don't feel worthy of your love or your attention or the group's love and attention. It's so true. And the second thing, like Zacchaeus, when we feel unlovable or unworthy, we will go to extreme measures sometimes to get noticed. Climbing a tree for a little fella is going to the extreme. And most of you know that before I was called into full-time ministry, my career was focused on working with at-risk adolescent youth in different settings. And I have witnessed countless of young people who committed suicide and took their own life. I have met many kids who committed horrendous crimes, violent crimes. I've met many kids who constantly destroyed their lives and constantly destroyed the lives of others by filling their bodies up with all types of drugs and alcohol and acting out. Why? Because the bottom line is they felt unworthy of a parent's love and would go to extreme measures just to get noticed. in my life, that for many young people and adults as well, you know the only thing worse than being a bad person, an evil person? The only thing worse than that is being ignored. Being ignored. No one knows you. No one cares if you're alive or dead. No one's there to listen to your voice or even punish you if you get into trouble. The worst is being ignored. And Zacchaeus had a position where he couldn't. He couldn't or would never be ignored. Because he possessed the power over all the people. I mean, Zacchaeus kind of had it made. You want to ignore me? Ha 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 ha! Wait till you get your tax bill, buddy. You want to ignore me? Wait till you get your tax bill. If you don't pay it, wait till I roll up to your front door with the Roman army behind me with their swords. You will notice me. But that's how it is with a lot of people. So now let's look how this ends. And as we read the second part of the story, I ask if you can find yourself somewhere in this rest of the story. We pick up again in verse 5. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So Zacchaeus came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, He has gone to be a guest of a sinner? But Zacchaeus stood up and he said to the Lord, Lord, look, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times that amount. Jesus said to him, Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is the son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. You see, Jesus engages Zacchaeus, and Jesus knew exactly who he was. He knew everything about his reputation. He knew everything about his past. He knew everything about his character. And Christ Jesus invited himself into his life. Not only did Jesus say, hey man, come down from the tree, Zacchaeus. My name's Jesus, nice to meet you. He said, no, come down, and I must say, I am going to stay. I'm inviting myself not only into your life, but into your house. I am coming to your house to stay. And to stay in someone's house is a level of intimacy that many people don't cross. I'll admit, I've got distant family members and family members in the hills of Tennessee that I would not let spend the night in my house. They're my family. I love them. I'll be there for them. But they're not spending the night in my house. Sorry if you're listening to this back home in Tennessee. I mean, we just don't let anybody come into our house and spend the night and sleep in one of our beds and use our bathroom facilities. We just don't. It's a different level of intimacy. But for someone of Jesus' stature to want to stay in our house is like a huge, huge honor. Jesus, at that exact moment, joined his life with Zacchaeus' forever. Think about that. Jesus didn't care what other people thought about his association with the chief tax collector. Jesus said to the crowd and to the world, this man is worthy of my friendship. This man is worthy of my compassion. This man is worthy of my love. And the result of Jesus making Zacchaeus feel worthy is a huge transformation of Zacchaeus' life. At that moment, his goals, his ambition, his career was all changed because Christ Jesus felt he was worthy. And the result was Zacchaeus got to rewrite his legacy. Let that sink in. He got to rewrite his legacy. Notice Jesus didn't tell Zacchaeus what to do. Jesus did not initiate what Zacchaeus should do. His love inspired Zacchaeus to initiate his own transformation in his life. Jesus said to the world that day, look, I have come here for the sinners. I have come here to let the sinners know that they are not defined by their bad actions. I have come to let them know that they are lovable, that they are welcome in my presence. Jesus said to all sinners, I am not here to make you feel worse about yourself, but to welcome you in so that you can feel the warmth, the love, the mercy, and forgiveness. And you know, under any conditions, you know, as a matter of fact, that you matter to me. He does that for Zacchaeus, and he does that for us as well. We matter. We are worthy. We are God's creation. We are created. We are known by a powerful God. We are loved by a powerful God. We are forgiven by a powerful God. And that same God desires a relationship with us. We are worthy. So where are we? I mean, where are we? See, we are all maybe somewhere between climbing a tree to inviting Christ into every intimate aspect of our life. Somewhere between sinner